simultaneously, to the better alphabet, you're tossing out secrets. You're not waiting. You're not waiting, because teaching T is harder if you don't know why it never does what it should. Raise your hand if your kids could tell you, or a sub, which kids are not allowed to sit together. No matter how young or how old or what language they speak, could they let you or a sub know they can't sit together? Raise your hand if you think they could actually say why. Like they'd know why, like, because they're gonna spit, because they play rough, because they always talk, because they out. Yeah, so they're just things they understand. T and H are not allowed to sit together, ever. They're not allowed to sit together. And you know why they can't sit together? Because when they do, they always stick out their tongues and they go, and that's the sound they make. Now, there's not a kid that you couldn't tell that to and then show this to. It doesn't matter that they don't know what a T is or an H. That's not the relevant part. What's relevant is if they see this symbol, would it prompt them to go? And the answer to that would be yes. Even a 3-year-old could look at this without even understanding what it's for and go. Now, that's called sound to symbol. You saw this symbol and a sound popped out. What if we reversed it and I just said, could you go point to the letters that aren't allowed to sit together? Because they always go. You could easily identify the culprit that made that sound because it's clearly depicted here. That's the perfect sound wall. Not tongues, not mouths going, you know, the 44 mouths on the wall. I'm not criticizing that because I know some schools and districts are required to have it up. And I will say with COVID, it was helpful with the masks on and you're online and kids can't see your face, and it's got its place. And it absolutely is helpful if you're working with structural abnormalities or speech issues that need to have diagnostic corrections in a small group, if you're a speech pathologist. But as a teacher trying to help a kid spell or read a word, finding the right tongue or mouth and the letters under it, using a mirror for kids to see what their mouth looks like as they then try to compare it to the 45 other mouths on the wall, is a very complicated multi-step task. Tim Shanahan wrote a wonderful blog post about how that would actually look if it were possible to be done. And since that time, a lot of the mouth pictures now, instead of being called like a sound wall to read and spell, it's more a sound wall to help support kids understanding their mouth positions. And I can get behind that. But for reading and spelling, it's got to be instant. And you want to go with what they know. If a mirror has to be involved, that's a whole nother level of chaos that kids would enjoy for all kinds of other things. So bottom line is orthographically mapping that sound to this symbol. That's the goal of the game, because all we want to do is open the alphabet up to include another sound. So that when you go on your morning message to write the word this or that or the, you're actually doing something that connects back to what kids understand. Because otherwise there's only 26 letters in that alphabet and none of them say, so how do they get that sound when they want to write it? How do they figure out that sound when they want to read it? They're going to have to. So you don't have to worry like, oh, but until they know that's a T and that's an H, I can't talk about the T and the H. No, you can, because the orthographic mapping process is sound symbol connection. They'll get the names of the letters. That's going to happen through muscle memory. That'll take about 2 weeks to 2 months because the muscles have to get it. You walk out the door with something that makes sense. If you tie back to what they already know, you get to own it by default. You're not really teaching them about not getting along and sticking your tongue out. They've been doing that long before they met you. You're just tying what's already deeply understood to this brand new thing they've never seen. And you know where the heavy lifting is happening? On the wall. Because the hard part is, how do I remember which ones do what? They don't have to. That's what a sound wall is for. A sound wall is a place kids can go to independently read and spell without you, to be able to look at a symbol and figure out the sound it makes on their own, or to be able to hear a sound in a word they want to write, like that, and be able to look at the wall and see, what can I use to put that symbol down? Oh yeah, they're the ones with their tongue out. That's what a sound wall is supposed to be for, a place to go sound symbol to get either or for reading or writing. So the heavy lifting is done with the poster. They don't have to remember which one does what, because that's what this will do until it starts to work its way into their own thinking network through use. But you don't have to worry that they don't know the names of the letters yet to make sense of what's happening. If you just refuse to do that and only tell them T says T, and until they mastered that, you're not going to talk about this. You're going to take 3 times longer to teach that because it won't ever actually work. You're stuck. You're kind of unreinforcing it all the time without trying to, because everything they see in text, it's going to show the opposite of what you're telling them to do, which is the T sound. And you can say, look, T really does say T, just not when it's with H. That way you're consistent. It's not a just is, just as, you have to just remember, like it actually makes sense.